Oh.
All right, listen, B.O.B., once and for all. The Earth looks flat because, one, you're not far enough away at your size. Two, your size isn't large enough relative to Earth to notice any curvature at all. It's a fundamental fact of calculus and non-Euclidean geometry. Small sections of large curved surfaces will always look flat to little creatures that crawl upon it. But this whole thing, it's just a symptom of a larger problem. There's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country. It may be the beginning of the end of our informed democracy. Of course, in a free society, you can and should think whatever you want.
Hello, ladies and gents. Right, what you've just had to put up with there was our good friend Neil condescending to us, and in fact outright insulting us and lying. And he's done that by saying the way that we perceive things and the reason we perceive things in the way we do on the flat Earth is a basic fact, quote unquote, of non-Euclidean geometry. Well, let's look at Euclidean geometry for a moment and see how correct that is. It's actually come from a man called Euclid, who was a Greek mathematician, and he read in a book in Alexandria, just like the fable of Aristophanes, and he read a book in Alexandria and sent somebody on a huge walk to somehow prove that the Earth was a globe. Anyway, I digress. So what Euclid did was he formed the basis of geometry. In fact, he's known as the father of geometry. What he stated was, we exist in 3 dimensions, and we see in 3 dimensions: length, breadth and width. Not time, space and matter in this case. We're talking about visual perception. And he even wrote a thesis called Euclid's Optics, which discusses the similar thing. So we perceive things in what we could term Euclidean geometry. We exist and we are and we perceive things in 3 dimensions. So when we look at non-Euclidean spherical geometry, then we discover that that is only possible within 2 dimensions on a sphere, which is ridiculous because neither do we perceive or are we in 2 dimensions. So what has Neil really told us, because he's conjured up the image of an insect, right? Because if I talk about a creature that crawls, what I'm conjuring up in your mind is an insect. So what Neil has called us all there is a 2-dimensional insect that crawls upon the Earth. Okay, so let me just read this out. It says, the surface of a sphere is not a Euclidean space, but locally the laws of the Euclidean geometry are good approximations. So locally, as in where anyone will be ever, it will look totally flat. As in the insert, it's how we built everything from the road systems to railways. It's how everybody will visualize everything ever. Unfortunately, that doesn't fit in with the giant foreign object in the background there. That is, it's all curvy, isn't it really? So what we're asked to believe, what we're being told is happening, is what we are seeing that just looks flat, right, is actually all curvy. Do you understand? Because that's science. I've scienced you. Have you been scienced? Let me science you again. An implication of Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity is that physical space itself is not Euclidean, and Euclidean space is a good approximation for it only where the gravitational field is weak. In other words, translated into English, we can't discover any curvature, we can't measure any curvature, we can't observe any curvature, and the reason for it is the general theory of relativity. That excuse is weaker than the gravitational field, and that doesn't even exist. Here's what I used to believe. I used to believe that my weight was an illusion, because without gravity I would just float off and everything would weigh the same. Therefore my independent weight that I seemingly feel is an illusion. What proves this is things like Newton's third law and the general theory of relativity. Now, what I used to believe is if I put my hand up in the air, then billions of other people around the globe would all be putting their hands up in the air in entirely different directions, which means there is no such thing as up or down. Up or down becomes entirely relative and therefore an illusion. So my weight, my sat here now, is an illusion. It's a series of mathematical events that are actually taking place, giving me the conscious idea that I'm doing these things independently. And if I put my hand up, then of course that's also an illusion. I used to believe that sunsets and sunrises are an illusion.
Now, Christian, we'll test your reflexes. Watch the film, here, of the setting sun. All I want you to do is hit your buzzer at the moment the sun has dropped below the horizon. Speed it up. Eyelids are hey. It was you got there first. Well too late. Well too late. That is the moment at which the sun is below the horizon. What we see is a mirage.
I also used to believe that time is an illusion. Now, we all thought we could look at a clock to tell the time, but once you begin to understand special relativity and the fabric of space-time, then you understand that time is not what we think when we look at our watches, and time, like up and down, like our weight, becomes relative and therefore an illusion. And now the cherry on the cake is everything we measured, constructed, have observed in the world, every one of us ever, are told these things are only a close approximation of what's genuinely there. Now, I contest to you that as a child we understood why heavier things fell faster. As a child we understood up and down is not relative. We thought everyone puts their hands up in the air all around the world, then everybody's hand is up in the air. We used to believe as children that we watched the sunset and sunrise and that was the sun setting and rising, and it was not an illusion. As a child we believed that when we looked at the clock, then that was the time. There's nothing relative, no illusion about time, that was it. As a child, everywhere we looked, we assumed, or we would have assumed, that everything is flat, had we not been taken and brainwashed at too young an age to think of these things ourselves. But I contest to you that we were right as children, and the education system is a farce and a joke, and what it does is there's nobody answering questions. You're trained like a dog with dog treats, and you're rewarded when you get a question right. But here's the problem: everybody knows the answers to the questions, so really it's a statement, and what you do in an examination is you justify a statement, and the better you can justify those statements or give an answer, the further you will progress in the education system. If you surpass the questions, if you understand the questions are wrong, then you will not progress in the education system. You have to toe the line. The better you can portray and explain the given paradigm, the further you will progress. Any movement away from that paradigm and you will be denounced as a failure. The education system is a net, and it's robbed every shred of common sense from us, from up and down, to our weight, to the time, to everything we see ever. And I would ask anybody to show me a single shred of proof. I'm going to read you something now as an example, and this is from the physics classroom. So, consider the motion of a car on the way to school. A car is equipped with wheels that spin. As the wheels spin, they grip the road and push the road backwards. I'll read that to you again. Consider the motion of a car on the way to school. A car is equipped with wheels that spin. As the wheels spin, they grip the road and push the road backwards. Now, I don't know whether you've got children, but I want you to imagine a scenario for me. Imagine asking a child, "Hey, little Timmy, what's happening when the wheels on the car go round and round?" And if he answers to you, if little Timmy looks back and he says, "We push the road backwards," then my recommendation is take him to the doctor. In the world we live in today, it would be, wow, little Timmy is a super genius. But I contest, and I'm right, when I say the reason a car will move forward is because that road is in place. If it wasn't in place, there could be no momentum on the car. Simple. Now, you may think this is just a really bad example that I pulled from the back end of the internet, but I don't know where you're sat, or even if you're sat, wherever you're stood or sat or laid down, whatever creepy position you may be in, you're not just laid on a surface. That surface is pushing back. So I'm on a chair now, and I believe it's my weight sat on this chair which can support my weight, which is sat on the earth, which can support the weight of the chair and me. But what science tells us is that the earth is pushing back on my chair, and my chair is pushing back on me. Once again, I ask, where's the proof?
I'm sorry, lad. Sorry, I spoiled everything. I know that trip to London meant a great deal to you.
Oh, it's not your fault. I shouldn't have popped off. Now I'm really done for.
No, you're in a great spot, boy. You can't go down now. It can only be up from here.
I'd like to know how.
Use your head. An education, lad.
What good will that do?
Get it first, and who knows? Are you willing to try?
Well, what have I got to lose?
That's the spirit. We'll start tomorrow. We'll show 'em, won't we, boy?
We sure will.
Now, first of all, lad, we've got to get all these medieval ideas out of your head.
That's certainly an interesting image, right? Because there's something to notice, and that's the first thing, is you've got to ridicule something that actually makes sense. To give an opposing idea a chance, especially an absurd opposing idea, you've got to really go full steam on ridiculing common sense before you can introduce such an absurd idea. Now, notice how we have the flat earth, which is the world, terra firma, which is dry land, it's where we are. Or you can opt for the new world. But the problem with the new world, as our wizard friend said, is it's just an idea. It's not a reality. It's an idea that people believe. And the new world, that requires some order.
A new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. An era in which the nations of the world, East and West, North and South, can prosper and live in harmony.
tape recorder has been a big benefit to us in passing some of the time away in our transit out to the moon. And it's rather odd to see it floating like this in Odyssey while it's playing the theme from 2001.
What the?
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. I got 3 fuel cell lights, an AC bus light, a fuel cell disconnect, AC bus overload, 1 and 2, main bus A and B out.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Gang, I don't know what happened here. We had everything in the world drop out.
What the?
We are venting something.
I don't think this is going to be a simple problem.
We have an apparent serious problem with a leak in the cryogenic oxygen in the service module, which provides breathing oxygen for the crew. Apollo here now.
What the?
Houston, try SCE to auxiliary, over.
NCE to auxiliary.
SCE to auxiliary.
What the?
Okay, let's make sure that we don't do anything that's going to blow our CSM
What the?
electrical power with the batteries or that will cause us to lose fuel cell number 2.
On panel 276, under instrumentation, power control. Open CB number 3 and number 4. Close SN speed 1 and 2 circuit breakers.
What the?
Cycle the Parker valve, and then open the SN speed circuit breakers on panel 11.
Hey, it's off. It's off. That sounds beautiful, troops. It's exactly what we wanted to see.
What the?
Early, my hats off to the guys in the trench. I love them.